corn. Get your sweet roasted corn here.
Phone accessories, chargers, cases.
Fain Ankara, beautiful colors.
In the bustling heart of a Nigerian city, where family ties are meant to be sacred and respect for elders is woven into tradition, lived Mama Grace, an old woman who once carried the weight of motherhood with pride and sacrifice. She had given her life to raising two sons, Osas and Efe, pouring her strength into their future when her own body had little left to give. But when age and poverty caught up with her, those very sons turned their backs. Their wives joined in the rejection, branding her a witch, casting her into the cold arms of the streets. What followed was a tale of pain, betrayal, and sorrow, a mother suffering in the hands of the children she once protected. Only when death claimed her did the truth strike like thunder, leaving behind regret too heavy to bear. This story is not just about Mama Grace's tears, but a lesson about love, responsibility, and the dangerous cost of forgetting where we come from. The streets of Benin City had long become Mama Grace's home. Her wrinkled hands clutched a worn wrapper that barely covered her frail body. Her hair, once thick and black, was now sparse and gray, scattered across her head like forgotten straw. The busy road hummed with impatient drivers honking, traders shouting, and children running about, yet Mama Grace's presence was hardly noticed. She was like a shadow, seen but ignored. She sat under the shade of a dilapidated kiosk, her eyes following people as they passed. Some avoided her gaze, others looked at her with disgust, whispering, "This old woman again, she no get children." The words pierced her heart, not because they were lies, but because they were painfully true. Mama Grace had two sons, Osas and Efe. Both were grown men, married with children of their own. Both had good jobs, houses, and respect in society. Yet none of them cared whether their mother ate, slept under a roof, or even lived. It wasn't always like this. Mama Grace remembered the years when her back bent under the weight of cassava and firewood, just to feed those boys. Their father had died when they were still very young, leaving her to carry the burden alone. She sold foodstuff in the market, sometimes trekking miles to bring back produce to sell. She went hungry so they could eat. She patched their uniforms, stayed awake at night to sew, and endured insults from landlords when she couldn't pay rent. All for her boys. But now, those same boys had turned their backs on her. The problem started years back when Osas got married to his wife, Evelyn. Evelyn was from a wealthy family. Her parents looked down on Mama Grace and called her too local. They didn't hide their disdain. Evelyn herself soon began to poison Osas's mind. "Your mother is using witchcraft to block your success. Why do you think you struggle so much? See how people of your age are making it bigger than you. It is because of her." Osas, blinded by love and pressured by his in-laws, began to change. He stopped visiting Mama Grace. The small monthly allowance he used to send disappeared. When Mama Grace went to his house one day, Evelyn made sure she was embarrassed at the gate. Efe, the younger son, followed suit. His wife, Sandra, was not any better. She often told him, "Don't bring that old woman here. If you love me and this marriage, keep her away. She is a witch. I can't have my children grow up around her bad spirit." It didn't take long before both sons cut Mama Grace off completely. Their excuse was simple: "Our mother is a witch." The rumor spread like wildfire in the neighborhood. People began to whisper whenever Mama Grace passed. Some children mocked her, calling her winch woman. Even in church, she noticed the subtle avoidance. People no longer wanted to sit close to her. Mama Grace tried to defend herself. She confronted Osas one day. "My son, how can you believe such a lie? I gave birth to you with pain, raised you with sweat, and prayed for your success day and night. How can I be the one standing against you?" But Osas looked away, avoiding her tears. "Mama, please just go. Don't bring problems to my house. I beg you." Those words shattered her heart. Homelessness. It wasn't long before Mama Grace lost her small room. The landlord, tired of her inability to pay rent, threw her belongings into the street. With nowhere to go, she wandered, carrying a small bag with her wrapper, Bible, and a few plates. Night after night, she slept in front of locked shops, sometimes in a mechanic workshop when they allowed her. Rain soaked her clothes, and mosquitoes feasted on her thin skin. Hunger became her companion. She begged for food in the market, sometimes going days with only gari and water. Yet, despite all this, she never cursed her children. In her prayers, she always said, God, forgive Osas and Efe. Touch their hearts. They don't know what they are doing. One afternoon, as Mama Grace begged for food in the market, she saw Osas's car drive by. It was a black SUV, shining in the sun. Her eyes widened with a mix of pride and pain. She called out, Osas, my son, and tried to wave. But Osas pretended not to see her. He quickly wound up his glass and sped away, ashamed that people might recognize his mother as the ragged beggar on the street. That night, Mama Grace sat under the kiosk again, staring blankly. A trader nearby whispered to another, that's Osas's mother. See how she dey suffer. And he dey drive jeep. No wa oh. Mama Grace's heart ached, but she said nothing. One rainy night, she staggered into an uncompleted building to escape the downpour. Her body shivered violently. She coughed uncontrollably, her chest burning with pain. Her frail body could no longer handle the harshness of the streets. As thunder roared above, she whispered a prayer, God, into your hands I commit myself. If this is how I am to end, let it be. But please, please forgive my children. Her voice cracked as tears rolled down her face. In that moment, she felt utterly abandoned, not just by her children, but by the world itself. The tragedy of Mama Grace was only beginning. Her death would come quietly, yet her absence would awaken storms her son never expected. Mama Grace had not eaten for 2 days. The little cassava flakes she begged from a kind trader the previous afternoon could barely pass through her dry throat. Hunger gnawed at her belly, but worse was the fever that burned through her body. Her cough had grown violent, and each spasm left her trembling. She pressed her Bible against her chest, her lips moving slowly. Lord, let your will be done. Her voice was hardly a whisper. That morning, she gathered her remaining strength and decided to walk to Efe's house. Maybe, just maybe, her son would have mercy. She leaned on a broken stick as a walking aid and staggered through the busy streets. People stared at her with pity, some shaking their heads. When she reached Efe's compound, she stood by the gate, her breath shallow. She called softly, Efe, my son, it's me, your mother. Sandra, Efe's wife, opened the gate slightly, her expression instantly sour. Mama, what are you doing here? Didn't we tell you never to come to this house again? Do you want to spoil our lives? I beg go. Mama Grace's knees wobbled. She held the gate for support. My daughter. I am sick. I need small food, water, please. Sandra hissed and shouted toward the house, Efe. Your mother is here again, oh. I told you this woman will not leave us alone. Efe appeared, adjusting his shirt. When he saw his mother, his face hardened. Instead of pity, there was irritation. Mama, how many times will I tell you? Stop coming here. You are disturbing my peace. People are saying you are the reason I don't move forward. Leave me alone. Mama Grace's lips trembled. She stretched her hand toward him. Efe. I am your mother. I carried you 9 months. But Sandra pushed the gate forcefully. It slammed shut, almost catching her fingers. She staggered back, her stick falling to the ground. Efe's voice came from behind the gate, cold and final, don't ever come here again. I don't have a mother. Mama Grace stood there for a moment, her tears mixing with the dust on her wrinkled face. Her body shook from weakness. Slowly, she turned away, dragging her feet back toward the street. That night, the rain returned. Heavy, pounding, merciless. Mama Grace crawled back into the abandoned building where she had been sleeping. The roof leaked, but it was better than lying in the open street. She spread her wrapper on the cold floor and lay down, shivering. Her lips cracked into a faint smile despite the pain. My boys, My precious boys, may God forgive you. Her breathing grew shallow. The fever consumed her body, and she coughed violently until blood stained her wrapper. Alone, with only her Bible pressed against her chest, Mama Grace closed her eyes. The silence of death came like a thief in the night. By dawn, she was gone. The next morning, 2 boys from the neighborhood who often played football near the uncompleted building found her lifeless body. At first, they thought she was asleep. But when one of them touched her hand, it was cold and stiff. They screamed and ran to call the elders in the area. Soon, a small crowd gathered around the old woman's body. "Oh, this is Osas and Efe's mother, oh," one woman said, covering her mouth in shock. "So she died here, like this?" "God forbid." The news spread quickly through the area. People whispered in disbelief. How could 2 successful men allow their mother to die like a stray dog on the street? The son's reaction when the news reached Osas, he was in his office. His phone rang, and a neighbor told him, "Your mother is dead." They found her body in an uncompleted building. For a moment, Osas froze. His hands shook slightly, but he quickly brushed it off. "I don't know what you're talking about." "That woman died a long time ago for me," he muttered and dropped the call. When Efe heard the same news, he was eating breakfast with Sandra. She clapped her hands in mock shock. "Huh. She finally died. Thank God. At least our evil spirit will stop disturbing us now." Efe forced a smile, but his hand trembled as he dropped his spoon. He felt an emptiness deep inside, but he refused to admit it. The community elders were furious. Out of respect for the old woman, they insisted her body be taken to the mortuary. But when they called Osas and Efe to come and take responsibility, both sons refused. "We cannot bury a witch," Osas said firmly. "Let the government handle her corpse," Efe added coldly. The elders were shocked. One of them, an old man named Paul Johnson, rebuked them harshly. "You are both a disgrace. That woman suffered for you when your father died. She fed you, clothed you, sent you to school. And this is how you repay her. May God judge both of you." Despite the anger of the elders, the sons refused. They walked away, leaving their mother's body in the hands of strangers. Whispers of regret, but at night, when sleep should have brought rest, both Osas and Efe were haunted. They dreamed of their mother, her frail body, her tearful eyes, her voice calling their names. Osas woke up in sweat, hearing her whisper in his mind, "Osas, my son, why did you abandon me?" Efe sat up on his bed one night, hearing her cough echo in his head. His chest tightened, and for the first time, guilt consumed him. But it was too late. Mama Grace was gone forever. Her death left a bitter silence. A silence that would soon grow into storms of regret and pain that no wealth or marriage could ever erase. The burial of Mama Grace was the simplest kind. No ceremony, no family speeches, no children standing proudly by her coffin. The community elders, too pained by the shame Osas and Efe had brought upon themselves, contributed money to give her a modest burial. They laid her in the village cemetery, wrapped in white cloth, her frail body resting beneath the earth. Only a few market women, who once shared food with her during her last days, attended. They wept quietly, mourning not only her death but the cruelty of the children she raised with sweat and tears. But while the ground swallowed her body, her spirit rose, heavy in the hearts of her sons. The first signs it began a week after the burial. Osas, seated in his office, suddenly found himself unable to focus. Every time he tried to go through his files, his mind drifted to an image, his mother, shivering under the rain. He shook his head and forced himself back to work. But the guilt clung to him like a shadow. That night, he dreamed. He saw Mama Grace sitting by the roadside, holding her Bible. She looked at him with sorrowful eyes and whispered, "Osas, why?" He woke up drenched in sweat, his heart pounding. He reached for his glass of water but his hands trembled so badly he spilled it. The next morning, Evelyn noticed his uneasiness. "Why are you sweating like this? Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," he lied, but deep inside he knew he was not. Meanwhile, Efe faced his own torment. He had returned late from work one evening, only to find his children crying uncontrollably. Sandra said they refused to sleep, claiming they saw Grandma standing at the door. Which grandma? Efe asked, his voice shaky. Who else? Your mother. Sandra snapped. Efe, I told you this woman is not normal. Even in death, she won't leave us alone. Efe forced laughter, but goosebumps covered his skin. The cracks in their homes slowly, their households began to suffer. Osa's business started to collapse. Deals he had already sealed suddenly fell apart. Clients withdrew contracts without explanation. Within 3 months, he was struggling to pay salaries. Evelyn accused him of mismanagement. Instead of working hard, you are busy thinking about that which you call mother. See how she has dragged us down even in death. Her words stabbed him, but he couldn't fight back. Deep down, he knew the truth. The real witchcraft was his own wickedness toward the woman who gave him life. Efe faced marital problems too. Sandra became more hostile. Every little argument ended with, "It's your mother's curse." Their children grew sickly, frequently admitted to the hospital. Bills piled up, and quarrels filled the house. One night, after another heated argument, Sandra shouted, "You killed your mother with wickedness, Efe. And now her spirit will not allow us to rest. You and your brother have brought a curse on yourselves." Those words hit him harder than a whip. For the first time, tears rolled down his face. He locked himself in the room that night and sobbed quietly. The village elders' rebuke news of their suffering reached the elders in the community. Paul Johnson, the same man who had rebuked them earlier, called them for a meeting. "Both of you sit down," he said sternly, his wrinkled hands gripping his walking stick. "I warned you. I told you God's judgment is heavy on children who despise their parents. Did you think you would escape?" Osas shifted uncomfortably, his head bowed. Efe sniffled, avoiding the elder's eyes. Paul Johnson's voice grew sharper. "Your mother was not a witch. She was a mother who gave everything for you. And you abandoned her to die like an animal. Shame on both of you. Whatever you are suffering now is not witchcraft, it is the tears of a mother crying out against her children." Their silence was loud. For the first time, Osas whispered, "Papa, what do we do now?" The old man shook his head. "It is too late. The dead do not eat apologies. All you can do is beg God for forgiveness. But know this, you will live with the memory of what you did for the rest of your lives." The weight of memory from that day, regret became their closest companion. Everywhere Osas turned, he saw his mother. At the bus stop, when he saw an old woman carrying firewood, he thought of her. In church, when widows were given food, he remembered how his mother once begged for bread. His heart grew heavier, and no sermon could comfort him. Efe was not spared either. His children's innocent faces reminded him of his own childhood, when Mama Grace shielded him from hunger with her own empty stomach. He remembered how she carried him during his sickness. Now he wished he could turn back time, just once, to embrace her and say, "Thank you, Mama." But time was cruel. One evening, unable to bear it, Efe went to the cemetery alone. He stood before her grave, staring at the small wooden cross placed by strangers. His knees buckled, and he fell to the ground, weeping uncontrollably. "Mama, forgive me. I was blind. I was foolish. I let people deceive me. Mama, I didn't mean it. Please, forgive me." His cries echoed in the quiet cemetery, but no voice answered. Only the wind rustled through the trees. Weeks turned into months, but the weight did not lift. Their wealth dwindled, their marriages cracked, and their peace vanished. Neighbors whispered openly about them now. "See those men who abandoned their mother. That is why they are suffering." Children in the street mocked their kids, calling them sons of the witch killers. Their names became symbols of shame. Both brothers began to avoid public places. The guilt had eaten too deep. The lesson of pain. One night, Osas sat alone in his parlor, staring at his mother's old Bible, which a market woman had given him after her death. He opened it, and on the first page, in her shaky handwriting, were the words, "Lord, bless my children, Osas and Efe. Keep them safe. Make them great men. Let them never lack. Even if they forget me, do not forget them. Osas broke down, clutching the Bible to his chest. For the first time in years, he prayed with sincerity. God, forgive me. Mama loved me till the end. And I repaid her with wickedness. But forgiveness, though divine, could not erase the scars of regret. The haunting had only begun. What lay ahead for Osas and Efe was not only punishment, but a lifelong reminder that parents are treasures that can never be replaced once lost. The whispers of regret had barely settled when reality struck Osas and Efe with full force. Their lives, once decorated with comfort and pride, began to unravel thread by thread. It was as though the very heavens conspired to repay them for every tear their mother shed in the cold streets. Osas was drowning. At home, Evelyn grew restless. She was never the type to endure suffering. She had married him because of his money and status. Now, with both crumbling, her love turned to contempt. Osas, look at yourself. You can't even provide common food for this house. You allowed your mother's curse to follow us. I told you before, but you refused to listen. Osas would sit silently, unable to reply. In his heart, he knew Evelyn was wrong. It wasn't his mother's curse, it was his own guilt. One afternoon, as he left his empty office, he saw an old woman begging by the roadside. His legs froze. For a split second, he thought it was Mama Grace. He blinked hard, but it was another woman. Still, the sight broke him. He hurried into his car, tears streaming down his faces. Efe's troubles were of a different kind. His once happy children had grown withdrawn, plagued by constant illnesses. Hospital visits drained his finances. Sandra's patience thinned with each passing day. One evening, after a quarrel, she packed her bags. Efe, I cannot live in this kind of bondage. Your mother's spirit is haunting this house. I warned you before, but you refused to listen. I'm living with the children. Sandra, please, don't do this. We can fix it, Efe pleaded, his eyes swollen with tears. But Sandra was unmoved. She left that night, taking the children with her. For the first time in his life, Efe was completely alone. He sat on the floor of his empty parlor, staring at the walls, his chest tightening with regret. His mind replayed the last time Mama Grace came to his gate, begging for food. He had shut her out with his own hands. If only I could see her one more time, he whispered, rocking himself back and forth. Just once, to say sorry. The weight of the past the brothers rarely spoke, but when they did, their conversations were bitter and heavy. Osas, Efe said one evening, when they met at a bar, do you ever feel like she's still here? Osas swallowed hard. Every day. She's in my dreams. She's in every old woman I see. I can't escape it. Efe buried his face in his palms. Sandra has left me. The children are gone. I am finished. For a long moment, both men sat in silence, their drinks untouched. The laughter of other men in the bar sounded distant. Finally, Osas whispered, we killed her, Efe. Maybe not with our hands, but with our wickedness. We killed our own mother. The words hung in the air, sharp and unforgiving. One Sunday, when Osas tried to stand and testify, the pastor paused him. Brother Osas, before you speak, let me remind you, charity begins at home. A man who cannot honor his mother has no testimony here. Humiliated, Osas sat down, his face buried in his hands. Both brothers began to experience the same dream, though they never spoke of it at first. In the dream, Mama Grace stood in front of them, dressed in white, holding her Bible. She did not shout or curse. She only looked at them with tears in her eyes and said, children, why? They would wake up trembling, drenched in sweat, unable to go back to sleep. When Osas finally confessed the dream to Efe, his brother gasped. You too? Every night, the same dream. They both fell silent, realizing that no matter how far they tried to run, their mother's memory would never release them. In less than a year, both Osas and Efe had lost almost everything. Osas's company collapsed completely. His house was seized by the bank. Evelyn, unable to endure the shame of poverty, left him for another man. He moved into a single rented room, his pride shattered. Efe, abandoned by Sandra, lost custody of his children. His job, once stable, slipped away when his boss accused him of negligence. With no wife, no children, and no work, he drowned in loneliness. The brothers, once proud and arrogant, became shadows of themselves, broken, haunted men. A cry too late one evening, Osas and Efe returned to their mother's grave together. The wooden cross was weathered now, the grass around it unkempt. They stood side by side, silent for a long time. Finally, Efe dropped to his knees, sobbing. "Mama, forgive us. We were blind. We let our wives poison our hearts. We should have cared for you. We should have protected you. Instead, we killed you with neglect." Osas knelt beside him, his tears falling on the soil. "Mama, I would give everything to see you again. I would give all my wealth, all my pride, just to call you mother one more time." The cemetery echoed with their cries, but the grave remained silent. Their words, though heavy with remorse, were too late. The lesson as they rose to leave, Paul Johnson, who had followed them quietly, spoke from behind. "Children, do you now see? A parent's tears are powerful. When you despise them, you despise God who gave them to you. Your mother carried you in her womb, fed you with her blood, raised you with her sweat. Yet you abandoned her. Now you see that wealth and wives are nothing compared to a mother's blessing." The brothers lowered their heads in shame. His words pierced deeper than any blade. That night, as they walked home, both knew they would never escape the punishment of memory. The fall of Osas and Efe was complete. But the deepest punishment was not poverty or abandonment, it was the haunting knowledge that they had destroyed the one person who loved them the most. The days stretched into months, and months into years. But for Osas and Efe, time brought no healing. Instead, it deepened their wounds. Poverty, loneliness, and shame became their daily bread. The world moved on, but their lives were stuck in the shadow of their mother's memory. The brothers never recovered their former lives. Osas lived out his days in quiet poverty, helping other widows in the market as though to make up for what he had failed to do for his own mother. Efe grew older, carrying loads in the market, always advising young men, "Take care of your parents while they are alive. Do not repeat my mistake." The tears of a mother follow you to the grave. People began to listen. Slowly, their story became a warning in the community, a tale told to children so they would never forget the importance of honoring parents. Moral of the story: when children forget the sacrifices of their parents and allow greed, pride, or the influence of others to harden their hearts, they destroy the very foundation of their blessings. No matter how poor, old, or weak a parent becomes, honoring them is a duty that brings peace and prosperity. Neglecting or mistreating them leads only to regret when it is too late. Parents are treasures, once lost, they cannot be replaced.